Join us as we unravel our deep-rooted relationship with money, from earliest memories to eureka moments and building wealth. Birth to Net Worth, with me, Tristan Trenberth.
Hi and welcome to another edition of Birth to Net Worth. Have we got a great guest for you today? I met Greg probably about 2 years ago, in the green room of a conference he was speaking at, and had some products he had available that were really intriguing to me. I'd heard a little bit about these products before, but I'm sure Greg will speak a little bit about the products that he works with, how he came to work in that area. But Greg, he's founder of Horizon Trust, which you'll hear during the story is his business. He's a great family man, husband, father, car enthusiast as well, and has a lot of time in real estate. Going to welcome to the stage here, Greg Herlean. Greg, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tristan. Yep, looking forward to it, so thank you.
Fantastic. So, Greg, give us a little background of, what you're doing at the moment and, how Horizon Trust has changed your life, but multiplied that impact to so many thousands of other lives that you've helped through the business.
Yeah, so, man, I can unpack a lot with that question. I've most importantly today, where I'm at today, I've got 5 children that keep me pretty engaged and in life, and they're my why. And but I have really built and created success through real estate and actually maximizing and understanding how to avoid paying taxes and using retirement funds to build a business. And so I own a trust company called Horizon Trust, and we help individuals unlock their retirement accounts to invest in things that they understand and like, rather than maybe the stock market, for example. So that's what I'm currently doing. But getting to where we are today, I know we're going to talk about that, but this is near and dear to my heart because I at 21, when I dropped out of college, I actually jumped into this subject of self-directing. And so I've been doing this for 24 years. I understand it. I understand how to, find money to build business, to build real estate, where it's at. I learned at a young age because I had no money. I started with no money. My family had no money. And so, so I know it works. I've had to do it a couple times. And so that's, I have a great team, a great office, that supports me and our clients. But spend a lot of time teaching people about a few concepts that most people are not aware of.
Brilliant. I know that Kelsey and your whole team has been very helpful with me and any clients that I've referred, or potential clients that I've referred to you. And I think that leads really, really well into, what was your first experience of money, your first memory, and what was the formation of your relationship to money? What did you decide money was?
I'll never forget it. I was 21 years old, and my mother set me up on I came home from college for a long weekend, and my mom set me up on this date with this girl from her church. And moms want to set you up, and so we go on this date. It's a Wednesday. It's a lunch date. And for some reason, this girl, I understand why, probably was trying to a little bit flex or show off, if you want to say it that way. And we go to her parents' house, where she was home for the weekend from college as well. And it was the first time that I saw what maybe most people had seen before, or maybe in the movies or on TV. But it was a Wednesday at like 2:00 after lunch, and her dad was washing his boat in the driveway of this mansion. And you might have heard boat and mansion, but one of the most critical parts that I said is Dad was home at 2:00 on a Wednesday.
Yep.
And I was like, now my dad is a great guy. He worked a lot. And he taught me how to work, actually, so I appreciate that. But Dad worked. He wasn't home on a Wednesday at 2:00 ever. And did we have a boat? Not a chance. But most importantly, I saw that, and I was like, man, whatever this guy's doing, when you said, what's your relationship, your first experience of money, this was it, because when I saw that and saw what money can do, I was like, whatever he's doing, I'm going to do it. And I didn't even know. I actually, a month later, dropped out of college and started working for this guy. And it didn't really matter. As long as it wasn't illegal, I was going to do it because I wanted lifestyle. And so that was my first experience as far as, creating my why and understanding what money can potentially do. I had obviously lots of other money experiences right after that. But that's the first thing that I think of when I think of money and the benefits of having it.
Fabulous. So if we wind back a bit further, so how did that contrast from, you mentioned a little bit in your intro that, you're talking about family and money. How did that contrast from your understanding and experience of money within the family relationship before you got to the boat and the mansion and the 2:00 in the afternoon on a Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, look, my parents taught me. My dad, they taught me how to work, and we never went without. We had a roof over our heads. We had food. We went to Orlando on vacation every year. That was our family vacation, Disney World, and literally every year in the minivan. And so, my experience with money, he taught me, my parents taught me about, I had a newspaper route. I cut lawns. I mowed lawns and I shoveled snow in Chicago in the winter, and I earned money, and I would tithe, pay to the church. I would save, and I would spend on things that I wanted. So I was learning about money and hard work at an early age. And that's, I think, obviously helped me as well. But I wasn't able to totally dream of what I could do with that money or with money someday, because it wasn't around me. Like even today, today I'm doing things today in my life that I would have never dreamed of in my 20s. Didn't even know it was possible. And I do reflect on that, and I try to appreciate those blessings, because when I was in my 20s, I never knew you could do or live the way that that a lot of days that I live. They're not all that way, but there's many days that are a dream. And so yeah.
It's funny how we take for granted the accomplishments we make through life and don't necessarily make those contrasts. And I think gratitude being one of the most powerful growth nutrients to our life. I think having gratitude for those, wow, this was never even on my radar to dream of. I was looking to be a racing driver or a pilot or something like that when I was super young. But, we look at pilots these days, they're not really earning that much money, and there's a lot of work to get there. And, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, really set things into shape for me as far as how this works. And you found your Rich Dad, there's that contrast to the different lifestyle and the different application of money in a different way than you'd learned before.
100%. 100%.
So what were you doing for this guy? Was it the cliches in real estate and that kind of got you into that business, or was it a different aspect of business that allowed you to later find yourself to that area?
He was actually in life insurance. Ugh, it was terrible. He was selling life insurance and annuities. And so, but it didn't matter to me. Remember, I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So, but he also dabbled in some real estate. And so what would happen is he would give me these dead leads or old leads and referrals, and I'd set appointments and find out what they had and if they wanted to meet with Chris. And so then I'd go with him, and I was kind of like the secretary. I'd take notes, I would fill out applications. But when it came to annuities and investments, every time that investments came up, I only worked for him for 18 months, by the way.
Yeah.
But every time investments came up in annuities, people would tell him all the things they invested. And so I met with, I don't know, probably a couple hundred different of his investors. And I got to see these wealthy people. And I'd see see what they were investing in. And almost everybody had real estate in their portfolio. And they were excited to talk about real estate. No one's excited to talk about life insurance and annuities. it was his job to try to teach them or sell them on why they might want to invest in that. And so I was able to also learn how to sell, how to build relationships a bit. I did go on a mission that helped me a little bit with that as well, but I was able to see him in action, but then also see how people responded and what triggered them. And so I learned really quickly, real estate was the triggering concept in the industry that people wanted to talk about. Everyone wanted to talk about real estate. And so that's when I started understanding, okay, people have money, and these people that have success have real estate that we're meeting with. I need to be involved and engaged in real estate. And so that's when I started really paying attention, studying real estate, going to the back of the room events, and just understanding what real estate was and how it worked at the age of 22 years old.
What an incredible age. I mean, I was at a conference this weekend. I think the youngest that was really fully participating was like 17 years old. Wasn't a real estate event. It was a guy called Sean Kalegi, does Unblinded. He's spoken with Tony Robbins and different things. But yeah, having that early start is such a huge advantage. I mean, Warren Buffett, they say if he started investing 5 years later, he may not have had more than about half of what the wealth that he has now due to the power of compounding and, other events that took place along the way. So yeah, the early start's an incredible head start. But another thing that I'm working on at the moment is something called Midlife to Millions, which is to inspire middle-aged people, fathers, husbands, people that have responsibilities and costs in their life to be able to level up and know that they can reach and attain those accomplishments from a later start in life. And I think the statistic says that most millionaires gain that status in their mid-40s because they've had life experience. But if you've got to that point and you haven't had those aspirations or had a clear path to it, real estate is probably going to be one of those paths that accelerates people to get to that status. I think that's going to be really helpful for me when working with teams like yours to redeploy people's money in a way that they haven't thought of before to multiply the wealth that they do and can build during the years they have until retirement, and hopefully bring retirement 15 years forward. If we can get a plan for a 5-year freedom number, build enough cash flow, it's retirement in the sense they don't have to work, but it takes away their survival relationship to money.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say, I mean, that's such a great mission that you have, because it really is about learning from your mistakes. I mean, look, I'm just trying to apply what you just said. I learned this at 21 years old, 22 years old, but guess what? At 2009, so that was 15 years ago, at 30, I lost everything. So I had to kind of restart all over again, and I'm much smarter now. So people that are in their 40s, having to start from scratch or start building their business, it's absolutely doable. And in fact, my business partner, when I partnered with him, he was 52 and I was 35. And he was, in 15 years, if you do it right and you take advantage of kind of the rules, the vehicles out there, the compounding, avoiding some of the taxes, you can absolutely do it. And so that's really encouraging. That's one of your missions and things that you help individuals do, because I think people get deflated, discouraged, like, oh man, I'm not there yet, or I'm starting at zero. Guess what? Even guys that don't start at zero, most of them start at zero, just a few years ago. So it's okay.
Yeah, I think for somebody that's been in real estate for, pushing 5 years now, it is easy to, and looking at my earlier days, to see kids that are getting in young, they don't have the bills, they don't have the families and that kind of stuff, think, oh, they got an unfair advantage. Well, if we look at the unfair advantage that I have in my mid-40s, I've got a whole life of experience to now. I've got a whole life of networks and contacts that I have who, I built relationship capital with, and the power of that could be well beyond that 10, the 50, 20-year-old that's just getting into the business themselves. We have a different advantage, but we both have advantages, and there's no disadvantage if we look at it in the positive state of being.
Yep, 100%. I mean, my son started at 20. Yeah, basically 18 months before me, and he's on his own journey, and it's been fun to watch me part of. So, yeah.
So let's I remember hearing you speak at, I think it was Clever, about this, about how you moved from the insurance side of things into the next steps that took you to starting Horizon.
Yeah. So actually, even before I started Horizon, when I started in real estate, one of the natural things that happens is people are, and I was looking for money. I needed to find money and lenders, partners, etc. And banks weren't lending to me. I was young, I was new, but someone taught me this concept at an event, this self-directed concept. And obviously that's what I own, and what I do today is I own a self-directed IRA company. I didn't at 22, 23 years old, but I understood the concept of that there is tens of millions. Actually, at this point today, there's almost 100 million IRAs in the United States. Almost a third of our population has one. And that these individuals with IRAs can unlock and or use part of their retirement funds, or all of them, and invest in me. And at 22, to understand that there was millions of people out there that had retirement accounts who were frustrated with the stock market and who would love to be involved in real estate rather than the stock market, this was a God-sent message to me. I was like, this is it. This is how I'm going to find partners. This is how I'm going to build my business. And it's exactly what I did. I focused on a vehicle that people are already unhappy with, to share and teach a message to them so they could potentially partner or lend to me. And so I screamed it to the back then there wasn't much social media. So I was sharing it. I was at RIAs. I was at different, I was at meetings, but I was meeting people, talking to people about the subject. And then I found a handful of partners that would lend money to me or partner with me using their IRA. And that was a complete game changer for so many reasons. But in today's world, since there's 100 million, which is over $4.5 trillion in these retirement accounts, there's no reason why anyone who says I can't find a partner or money to fund my deal, that you should never say that. They're all around you. And so if you can't get them, people that then you probably just don't know how to share the message.
Yeah.
And that's okay, by the way. You just got to find someone that can help share the message. And that's a little bit of what we try to do at Horizon Trust is because I know it works, and I did it for 10 years before I started a trust company. I applied these principles to my business. And now I go out and teach people that they too can use their retirement funds to either fund their own business or partner with others or syndicate with others. And it's not that hard to do. And so I just try to help people overcome that obstacle of fear, or the obstacle of it's just new, my advisor hasn't told me about it, and just teach people so they then have at least the tools to make their own decisions on where they want to invest their retirement money.
Fantastic. So where did you start looking for these people? You went to RIAs, but how did you figure out, RIAs and other places were good places to go? Because there's a lot of people with 401ks that are actively contributing. There's a lot of companies that are matching or at least contributing as well, where they can't move those. And I know one of the huge benefits and skills of your business is releasing the capital from the rigid 401k and making it a self-directed process. How did you determine where to look for these people initially? I mean, I know you went out on a mission, not to make that the reason or methodology, but was it knocking on every door you came across, or was it, looking into a particular demographic, a particular employment structure or role that you knew might be somebody that had a lack of knowledge and still a determination to have the best retirement that could be that crossover of the ideal candidate, or a candidate that would be a solid candidate to touch on?
Well, first, I will just mention and reiterate what you said. That people that have a current 401k with their current employer today, they most likely are not able to self-direct or move their monies into a self-directed company like ours at Horizon Trust. I'm talking about individuals that have old 401ks from previous employers, which is almost half of America has changed or moved jobs in the last 5 to 7 years. So there's a ton of America that has an old 401k hanging out there that they're not even paying attention to. Those 401ks you actually can self-direct, not ones that you're currently working at and making contributions to.
Got it.
And then also the IRAs that I explained, there's 100 million of those. It's actually like 98 million IRAs in the United States. So those were the ones I'm talking about. So, how did I, there was a few creative ways. Marketing 22 years ago is different than today.
Yeah.
The quick answer, and I can give you a couple, or at least one long answer as far as what I did, but the quick answer is a little bit of what you did say. I didn't literally knock door to door, but man, I talked to everybody that I could about self-directing. I changed my message. And I think that's probably the best example I can give you is when I first started and I was talking about real estate deals, just think about this right now. Like if I were to go to you right now and say, Tristan, I got this deal. It's a real estate deal. I'm going to pay you 12%. Well, on your money, lend it to me or let's partner on it. I mean, how many times have you heard that? You've probably heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a real estate deal. Everybody thinks they're a real estate expert. I found that out real quick. Like you talk to your neighbor right now. I have flipped hundreds and hundreds of properties and huge commercial projects as well. And my neighbor next to me, literally today, has flipped probably 4 to 5 homes in his life. But do you know what my neighbor thinks? He thinks he's a real estate expert.
Yeah.
Because he has bought and sold homes.
Yeah.
So if you're in that boat, or if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, my message is not sticking with people, I'm not able to raise dollars, it's probably because you need to change your message. My message was, I've got a deal. Look at my deal. But why is my deal any better than yours, Tristan? It probably wasn't. And that's why I was failing. So I changed my message. So now when people ask what I did, even though I didn't even own a trust company, I said, I teach people how to unlock or how to get access to the retirement funds and invest with me in my real estate deals.
Perfect.
I didn't even talk about interest rates. Didn't talk about the deal. Why? Because there's deals everywhere. I started sharing a message that was unique and different that they hadn't heard of. And so, it's like when you go into a room, if you got nothing interesting to talk about, no one wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
And if you got the same deal as everyone else, which is the same fix and flip as everyone else, how are you different? You gotta make yourself different than everybody else. And so what I learned at a young age, and obviously I learned some of these things from my mission, but then I learned a lot as well after, that I had, like, people weren't paying attention to me. So I had to figure out what got attention. And that was self-directing. There was low-hanging fruit. People are already frustrated with the stock market. They don't get advice or, when's the last time your advisor calls you and say, hey, I got this great stock tip for you? They don't want the liability. And right. The only time they call you is when they ask, do you want to invest more money with them?
Yeah.
Because then they get a bigger fee.
Yeah.
So people are already innately discouraged by the stock market, frustrated with the stock market. So it was an easy conversation. So I changed my whole message from real estate to IRAs. And I didn't even own a trust company back then. And what happened is people were engaged and interested. And wow, I didn't know that. My advisor never told me that I could move part of my money and invest in real estate. Sure, I'll invest with you in real estate. They didn't even ask me the interest rate.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation. Getting out and about, changing your message. And in today's world, it's easy to do with all the social media and all the boardrooms and masterminds and everything, all the places, clubs you can go to. You should be changing your message to something that intrigues and interests people. And I still believe, I'm sure I'm biased, but I still think since only 4% of Americans even self-direct, there's a huge audience that is still interested in this message. They just don't know that they can self-direct.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's an incredible way to put it, because everyone's asking about a particular deal, and that puts the commission breath for desperation that they need something right now, where you're talking about the bigger picture and an opportunity, which is nondescript as far as timeline, return, that's the thing that is engaging people, because it's not using scarcity mindset to try and get something from somebody else. It's really putting an opportunity in front of them to work with you as a more trusted person that's not just asking for something right away. It's developing that relationship and enabling the conversation if they choose to continue it. And they might say, well, no, not interested in that. And you haven't wasted your time, spitting the numbers that you're going to give them on returns and all of the data information.
Well, and I would just refer, and I think that was an important part of my message, or that a learning curve that I had, was I had to stop sharing and educating for selfish reasons. And look, when you're in your 20s, that's hard to do when you got a young family and kids. It's like, oh, I got to pay my bills. But as soon as I got over that and started sharing this message of self-directing, still before I even owned a trust company, I just was going out sharing that this is something out there that you can do. And I started doing it without trying to get anything back in return. And as I did that, more and more individuals started self-directing. And then by default, they come to me and say, hey, I did that thing you talked about. Do you have any deals that I can invest in? Without me actually even pitching a deal to them. So I really changed my message and tried to give and educate and provide interest in the subject. And some people would go off and self-direct and invest in their own deals, which is fine. A lot of people thought they were going to do that, but then found out how hard it was to find a deal. So they originally didn't think they were going to either invest it with me or somebody else, but eventually did invest with somebody else or with me maybe.
I think the best situation there is where they do go and do it themselves. They do make a bit of money, but realize how hard it was to get the money. And then they think, let me be hands off, Greg. Let me just give it to you. I don't mind making a bit less, but I just don't want the hassle of picking the carpet and picking the curtains or whatever it is that they're, because a lot of these people get into it thinking that they've got to choose everything instead of just following a budget, a formula that gives the most profit. I mean, you see a lot of these people that overpaid over the last 3 years for flips, their first, second, third project, and they might have exited with maybe 5 or 10 grand at the end of it, or maybe even made a loss because they just went full out on everything and didn't just think of creating the product that, matched or slightly exceeded the market comparisons. So yeah, I love that.
Yep. Totally.
So let's talk a little bit about, obviously self-directed is your primary vehicle as far as helping other people. What have you done to diversify your wealth strategy for your legacy and managing yourself without going into sort of personal details?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've learned a lot of lessons over the last 20 so years. And I say I learned them because I feel like I've changed the way I do things based upon decisions I've made. And even though I'm a deal junkie as far as I like different deals and opportunities, I really focus my energy in the real estate segment. And when I say real estate, specifically lending and or flipping commercial or residential deals. And it's what I do. I don't diversify into much anything else. Not because it's not good for me, but I'm a proponent of investing heavily in what you know and understand, rather than diversifying into different market segments or industries that you're not as familiar with. And so, do I do it once in a while? Yes. And those are the things that probably give me the most heartburn and have problems. But in general, I'd say 90% of what I do from my own personal investing is lending and flipping in different commercial or residential deals. And so that's, I don't hold. I'm not a buy and hold guy. My son buys and holds, and that's his model, which I love. He's figuring out his model right now. But that's what I do, and I will probably continue to do that to the day I die. I love real estate, and I love what it can do.
Fabulous. So, do you get involved with like whole life? Using some of that to also sort of diversify your investment?
Yeah, I do. And I actually don't consider that too much of an investment because it's, I kind of think that as my bank account or savings account. I don't think of it much as investing. But yes, I definitely have a handful of policies and continue to do these whole life policies that have the fixed, guaranteed, I should say guaranteed, not fixed, but guaranteed interest rates that, with solid A-rated companies. And that's where I'd rather bank and put my money than a lot of these, Wells Fargo's of the world. And so I get a better return. I get obviously some death benefit. I can borrow against my policies and invest it in real estate or other things. But yes, that's kind of a parking place for my savings account money. Yes.
Fantastic. It's amazing how long it's been around and how, I mean, they say that the government doesn't like advertising and those kind of things because it's based on contract law, not tax law, due to its seniority, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's one of those incredible vehicles. But it's not going to be the only vehicle to invest from. I suppose rather invest in. You're investing from that, like you said, with that being the bank. But
that's right.
So let's talk about the comeback. You mentioned that you lost it all, and you are where you are now. I think this is one of the things that can inspire somebody in their middle age like myself. What happens when you do lose it all? Because there is a risk with everything. I only go to Vegas to gamble on myself, to conferences and personal growth. I don't put my money into those things. But, what happens, I think, myself included for a long time during life is the fear of failure. Well, if I fail, then I'm going to look bad. And if that's the worst thing that can happen, what are the upsides of the failure, and where did you elevate yourself more quickly, both, emotionally, spiritually, and financially from that event or series of events?
Well, look, 2007, I was all in. I kept investing my profits and kept building and borrowing. And so when 2008 hit, and the market started plummeting, everything dropped at least 30, if not 50 or 60%. And I was mostly invested in Nevada. And so I went on paper, I was probably worth $10 million on paper as a 32-year-old. And on paper, right? And I had some cash in my account, but a lot of it was in real estate. To having a negative $22 million swing.
Yeah.
Why negative $22 million? Well, I lost almost everything. Everything was upside down. Couldn't make the mortgage payments. And I had bank loans of $22 million on some pretty substantial big apartment complexes and dirt, et cetera, that we were building.
Yeah.
So all the equity was gone. And I had banks now knocking on my door. My partners filed bankruptcy, and I was the last one standing. And I had a decision to make. One, if I was going to file bankruptcy, and number two, I had 3 kids at home and a 4th on the way, and a wife, and I just felt like I had to figure it out. So I was down and out for a few days, like 3 or 4 days. And I think that's part of my story is I had no other option. And I think that's part when people have some of their best successes is when their back's up against the wall. I was like, well, look, I got 3 kids, 1 on the way. I'm at negative $22 million. I got to effing figure this out. If I knew what I was doing before, then I need to really do it now. And so it always comes back to relationships, right? So I went to a couple old relationships that had some success the last 10 years. They were in a similar place. We got together and literally this all happened within a week of everything coming to a closure and fall to me. And I've got no other option except for succeed. I mean, I'm going to succeed. I'm going to push through. And that half of it was mind frame. I would say where my mind was, and then the other part of it, if you actually, it's probably in thirds. It's your mind, your work ethic, and your relationships. And those three things are, in my mind, the most important pillars. And so I had to get my mind straight, and then I had to work. And then there's no easy way out. I had to work my ass off.
Yeah.
And face banks and sit with banking panels and tell them why I couldn't pay back the $22 million and negotiate that debt, not file bankruptcy, go and put together a new business contract with some new partners to go start a new business to go make money. I did all that and just hustled. And I think that's a part that a lot of the world takes for granted. I see all these, they do some videos or some social media, or they do, go to a class or a mastermind. That's just part of it. And that's just like 5% of it or 10% of it. You got to do all the other work. So that's what I did. I mean, I actually started buying with another two partners. We bought homes at the footsteps as they were being foreclosed on.
Yeah.
And we bought and sold them as we bought them. We were just within 90 days selling them, making money. We probably bought about 200 homes in an 18-month period of time, help pay the bills, start building up things, start building the company. I started Horizon Trust Company then.
Yep.
And the Horizon Trust Company didn't make money for 5 years. But I knew what it could do. And so I was building a business that was going to be around for a long time. So, that's the cliff notes of what happened. Emotion, heartstring, hard work, back to the basics, back to singles and doubles, not being over aggressive, which got me in this $22 million deficit of saying, oh, if you can do homes, Greg, you can do apartment complexes. You don't stay in your lane. Do what works. Just do it over and over and over again. And so that's what I learned. And I got back to the basics and found success.
That's lovely to hear. I mean, I lent some money to somebody last year, and they the hard money company foreclosed on the property because they wouldn't drop the price a year ago to sell it at a price that was going to work. They stopped making payments in October, so they incurred the penalty interest rate. So I know from the other side of things, but unfortunately, the guy decided to file bankruptcy and he'd sold his house a year and a half before, so there was nothing that I could put a lien against to allow him to work it off in the future, you know what I mean? So
yep.
I really admire, I think success in many ways is not stopping, taking the time to feel the pain and feel your way through to what is the next step, and taking that on. That is success in itself. And then you're just raising the level of success as you move through and take it to the next high, basically. So I think that's incredible. So I would say, the last kind of section of the show maybe from this is, how did that impact your kids? Obviously, they were probably quite young at that time when that was going on. They still
32. Yeah, 32 years old when that happened.
And how old are your kids at that time? You had one on the way, but
I had a 9 and 7 and maybe a 8, 6 and 3 and 1 on the way.
Yeah. So I'm sure they got some sort of memory, or the elder ones probably have some sort of memory of a drastic life change in a short period of time. How did you kind of convey that to them, but more so, how does that impact your raising of them through your expression of struggle and times that were different from the earlier success, and how that's impacted you, bringing their mind round to financial literacy, understanding life and the risks, but also the rewards of these experiences that we have in life?
Well, that's a good question. I think my answer might surprise you a little bit. Maybe not, but there's two parts of the answer.
Yeah.
The first part of the answer is something I regret today, which is my family never knew what we went through. I did not want the stress to be put upon my wife at the time and children. I wanted them to continue to live the lifestyle they had. And so I bore the brunt of that and shared very, very, very little with my wife at the time. And I think that was also one of the things I've learned about relationships, about marriages, is the importance of communication. I'm now remarried, but it wasn't because of this, by the way, but this was one of those examples that could have made our relationship stronger, is working together through what I was feeling and the heaviness and the hardship. And I took it all on my own. And so, I would say they didn't learn anything at that time of what was going on. That being said, I don't regret what the kids didn't learn then. I only regret that I didn't share with my spouse at the time. So that would be that part of it. But what I will share with you is I've made it very apparent in the last 7 or 8 years. My oldest is 21, so 5 years after that, I've communicated and shared very, in depth of my experiences, where we're at, appreciation of where we have. And I believe most importantly, my kids have been able to see me work hard and explain and teach them about working hard. And so because of my experience, I parent differently. Because of what I went through, I parent differently. And I try to teach them, and they're going to go through their own stuff, and I let them know that, and it's okay. And so I've shared with them since, and they've seen it and feel it, and we talk about it. When we get on, do some of these special trips, some of these places in the world, we talk about it. When you get on an Emirates flight, flying business class as a family, I say, look, let me tell you what this costs.
Yeah.
Because you won't have this if you don't work hard. So I try to share those things, but I think the most important thing you can do that I feel like my kids have really learned is spending time, quantity, not quality, which is different than what everyone says, by the way. Of course, we have quality time, but it's all about quantity with your children. They see what you do, how hard you work, what you do, how you serve others, how you give to others. When your kids see you serving and helping others, I think is one of the most important lessons that they can learn, because it instills in them what they should be doing is giving and helping and serving others and being grateful for what you have. And so still have some work to do, but I'd say I'm super blessed with where my kids are today. And it's not just me, it's a village. It's their kid's mother, who's incredible. It's their kid's mother's husband. It's my better half, Jessica. It's all of us. And I think taking the time to reflect and ask questions, and so they can understand what's happening and why they have certain things and have a high expectation for them, is what makes them great kids today. So a little bit different angle than maybe you're expecting, but that's what I'd say how it got us where we are today.
I can kind of relate to that. I went through a divorce in 2010, and I think I hit a lot of the struggle emotionally, financially, that, during the roller coaster. And I look back in a similar light. I think that there was some benefit to it. I don't regret anything, because I believe that we're perfectly where we need to be. And I've gained a gift from realizing that might have been a benefit to them, but we are where we are. And it's just taking on with the growth that we gain through relationships, experience, and being able to relate to that differently. But I certainly think that kids knowing the value of things and knowing that they're going to do what we show them, not necessarily what we tell them, aligned with the amount of time, can be very important, because the more they become familiar with you and your work ethic and what's involved, the more they're going to take that on and align with that, rather than just short space of time telling them to do something and they don't see the relationship and the fruition of what that hard work means.
100%.
So what do you have coming up as far as, what's your vision of the next sort of 12 to 24 months as far as we're in a interesting real estate market, interesting investing market. Where are you pivoting or adjusting the sail to guide the boat, towards your horizon? No pun intended, but it's there.
Look, I feel like whenever there's uncertainty or there's market volatility, there's opportunity. And we definitely have that right now. We have an election coming up, which is going to force rates to come down because everyone wants to say the market's going the right direction. So you have the stock market, right? It hit its all-time high yesterday, but the market changes. So the volatility in the stock market, the elections coming up, the interest rates being kind of so high, there's just opportunity. And so that's without getting too deep into it, I am eager and excited about what's to come in the next 12 to 24 months. I feel like if deals right now can pencil at these high interest rates, they're going to be phenomenal if you can buy them now and refinance them in a couple of years. So I'm a buyer. If there's a good opportunity that can pencil with some financing, I buy. And if you can sell for a profit, great. If you got to hold on to it for a little bit, which I think you might have to right now, for rates to kind of settle down a little bit and then sell and get these higher cap rates and or exits, that's the model. And I think there's just a huge opportunity. So I'm like real estate's historically has always been the industry that's created the most millionaires and success stories. So I see this next kind of cycle doing the same thing.
Yeah. Are you generally a GP or are you generally a debt partner on these sort of multifamily type arrangements? I know you flip residential and, obviously do value add for commercial. Is that something you're looking to get into with your clients, funds potentially, or do you have a fund created by your clients that, they want to direct, they're self-directed and you create a fund of funds to invest in other projects? How does that work?
Yeah, no. So I've really focused and moved over to just Horizon Trust Company. My focus. I don't solicit and or raise dollars or have a fund that raises money. I have people, that interview and stuff that have their own funds, do their own investments, etc. But me personally, I invest in other people's funds. Sometimes I'm a general partner. Sometimes I'm a debt. I do debt and lend. I don't do it's 3 to 5 projects a year. It's not a huge amount. And I'm maybe one of several investors on a deal. That's kind of been, my model and to, eliminate some of the work. So yeah, that's how I structure it. But no, I don't do, there's so many deals out there and lots of people are raising money for different projects. There's plenty of things people can find.
Fabulous. So how can people work with your Horizon Trust? I think I've got a link from your colleague yesterday that I'll share in the bio and at the end here so that people can reach out to Horizon. How would people best bring you value as far as, I'm guessing, clients, people that might want to invest with you? You're not raising capital necessarily from others, but how would you, what would you like to share?
Well, look, I appreciate it. For me, it's my message of self-directing. I see what it can do and helps so many, literally thousands of individuals at our company and our clients of ours. And so, I don't have investments that people can invest in with me, but I will say, if people want to reach out to me or send me an email, you can find me at greg@horizontrust.com. That's my email. I'm easy to get a hold of. I respond to everybody, or I have my team respond if it's certain things I can't answer. But follow me on social media, email me, set an appointment with my team. If you're in that boat, my mission is to help individuals open up self-directed IRA accounts. If you have an old 401k with a previous employer, you're sick of it, or an old IRA, you can move a portion of or all of it into an account with us at Horizon Trust and start investing in what you know and understand, what you're passionate about, what you understand. Like that's my mission. That is my vision. And I want to teach as many people how to do it. And then, not only share with them how to do it, but walk them through the process and get them to do it so they can start having their own successes. And so that's it. Find me, talk to me, email me, work with our company, invest in, in individuals like yourself, Tristan, and invest in people that you know and understand. And that's my message.
So here's one for the parents in the room. How young can they start a self-directed IRA for somebody?
They can start young once they have income. Doesn't have to be 16 or 18. It can be younger. If they have income, then they can start contributing to a Roth or a traditional IRA. So if they're set up on payroll and they have income, absolutely. That's not a problem.
Fantastic. So that's a message for all of you entrepreneurs out there that may be putting your kids on payroll for helping with sales and marketing, being on brochures and models, that kind of thing, doing work around the office. This will be a great way for you to get them starting their compounding very early, adding to the self-directed, and then getting that money invested. And you guys, presumably as an intermediary, I know you've helped some of my lenders in the past. What's the process and how is that different if it's a minor child that's on payroll, has some investments? Can the parent do that on their behalf, or is there some other oversight that needs to be in place?
Yeah, no, parents can do it with them or on their behalf. But yeah, that's not an issue. So, I mean, if you've got a child that, that's earning income that wants to make a contribution to a Roth or traditional, contact us. We'll kind of walk you through it, how it works, how much you can put in, what the limitations are, based upon how much, money they've been paid. And then from there, I've got people that will have their kids, their wife, and themselves. They all have these Roth IRAs that say $5,000 each, let's say. And so there's 4 accounts and each has 5, it's 20 grand, can invest and lend or partner in a deal or wholesale and flip it. And those proceeds all go pro rata back to the kids and parents' accounts. And so, there's a lot of different options. So if you're thinking about doing this, contact us. We'll walk you through it and see how it applies to you or your children.
Sounds like a great way for a family to work together on an investment strategy that educates the young, whilst creating legacy wealth for future generations as well. So
for sure, yeah,
perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any events or anything you got coming up that you'd like people to know about, Greg, before we wrap?
No, we always have something usually every month coming up, but it's not at the top of my mind right now. I just say, look, just follow me on social media. This Greg Herlean. That's where I kind of put some of my information. And contact us if you have any questions. We just, we look forward to helping, educating, and giving as much as we can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Greg. It was an insightful conversation to me. I've heard some of the story, but I think the conversations we have on here are just very different from what most podcasts cover. And I think there are definitely some gifts in here that some people will pick up, and it can maybe change the trajectory of their life, just having, that 1 degree change, or maybe it's a, 45-degree change for them. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being the guy you are, and supporting so many people in changing their future lives. So I appreciate you, Greg. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on the next edition of Birth to Net Worth. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tristan.